And now I'd like to call on Michael Boileau, who was here last year from Safe Work Manitoba to talk about one of his projects. He's a prevention consultant in occupational hygiene, again with Safe Work Manitoba. Thanks, Michael.
All right. What do I get out of this? Under here. And then
Start it down. You just go to slideshow where you
right on. Hi. My name is Michael Boileau. I am with Safe Work Manitoba. I was here last year talking about something that we call ODIPS, and that's the Occupational Disease and Illness Prevention Strategy. This thing all started out before I even joined Safe Work Manitoba. And just to be clear, Safe Work Manitoba, we're not a regulator. We're a prevention arm of the WCB, so the Compensation Board. We have no regulatory authority whatsoever. And you'll see later on how that is a benefit to the kind of work that we're trying to do. So before I joined, there was a 5-year plan, and one of the points was to develop some sort of a standing on occupational disease and illnesses. So I was brought in, and essentially it was a blank canvas. We could do kind of anything and everything. So I was pretty ambitious when I started doing this thing. Thought, you know, what's some of the ways that we can develop some sort of a machine or some sort of a way of branching this out to a lot of different people and trying to make a real big impact in this sort of stuff. We released a glossy document here, and that's from one of the workplaces that we actually partnered with. But that's some of our goals here and some of the purpose that you see here above. But we literally started off with nothing. I was the only hygienist in the entire organization, really the only person who didn't think of chemical and biological safety and health as a complete black box. And so to bring out that education process and to do some statistical analysis in terms of looking at WCB stats and seeing, you know, is there an impact here and how can we possibly address that sort of stuff? And we quickly find out that there, you know, as many speakers have already said, it's poorly reflected in WCB stats for any sort of occupational diseases and illnesses. And we found it's not so much they were being denied, it's just that they weren't actually always being reported. And there could be a number of different reasons for that. I can talk about that later. But the other thing is too, we had no equipment. We had really nothing. We also didn't have any participation or partnerships with anyone. So all these things had to be developed, and that was over the course of about 1.5 years. And the last time I spoke here, nothing was actually underway. So in the course of a year, we've started over the last, say, about 6 months, and just under 6 months, we've monitored roughly 150 workers. So we set out a goal for ourselves of roughly 20 companies, and that's over a whole pile of different sectors. And I got that. Actually, we got more than that. We got involvement with significantly more companies than 20, but we had to limit that just simply on capacity. And over that short period of time, we've collected roughly 1,300 days worth of data. In fact, today right now we're collecting 10 days worth of worker data, and every single day that we do this, it's a minimum of 10 worker days of data for the course of the year. And we chose the course of the year because Manitoba, as you might imagine, it's especially if you heard the weather reports recently, it's a little cold there sometimes, and it's also really hot. So we have this big divergent temperature and climate. Also, we have a whole bunch of different industries too, farming, agriculture, mining, production, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a whole bunch of different facilities that we can draw from, and they have ebbs and flows of production value. So what we wanted to do is we want to measure roughly once every 2 weeks over the course of the year. So we're actually getting data. So some of the data that you've been hearing about all over the place, a lot of that's just it's data that's pulled from one particular day or maybe a small handful of days. Ours is somewhat unique is that we're actually getting data from the same workers for the course of the entire year. So a lot of the problems with variabilities and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of addressed just simply through this mechanism. And we're looking to expand this. So this is year one. This would be for diesel exhaust. We're doing that currently for the second year as well. And then we're looking at different chemicals going forward. Another big accomplishment that we've had is getting employers to buy into this. If anyone's tried to do this sort of work, they'll know that it's challenging, right? So I've honed my skills, and I realized very quickly that it really depends on relationships, right? It depends on the people that you're talking to here. It depends on the people who your audience really is. Talking to the safety and health guy isn't necessarily going to push your case forward. He's already on your side. I talk to the CFO every time I go in there. And why do I talk to the CFO? The CFO doesn't necessarily know a whole lot about safety and health, but he knows that the lifeline and that blood supply of that company is capital, right? So I make my argument to them that by participating in this study, this will make your company better, stronger, and more efficient. In fact, I'll reduce your bottom line. If you don't want to participate in it, then I might go to your competitor, and they take advantage of this, and they'll have the competitive advantage. So how do I actually accomplish that? Well, for instance, as I mentioned before, Manitoba is a little bit cold, right? So if you look at a very large production facility, something, 500,000 square feet, one of your biggest costs, especially in the wintertime, is your running costs, right? Your HVAC systems. So if you're running general ventilation, for instance, every time a truck comes in or you have different inputs of these chemicals and you're constantly circulating your general ventilation, you have to bring in that air that can be up to minus 40 sometimes, you have to heat it. And those increase your costs and your running costs substantially. So I can go to you though and take some measurements and some data and say, listen, you have an input at around roughly 6 in the morning and also roughly an input at 5 in the afternoon. And your ventilation system, and here I'll show you the data, right? It looks like a nice, beautiful crown. And really you're running your general ventilation the entire time. And that's simply to keep up with your occupational exposure limits, right? But if you would turn it up right at the morning and then reduce it and turn it up again at the evening, not only are you going to reduce your costs, but your OELs are actually going to decrease as well. So the workers are going to be happy, you're going to be happy, and everyone is then happy in general. We get to collect some data, you get to participate, and this is how we go forward from there. You develop those relationships. Another example of that relationship is last time I came here, one of the participants here put me in touch with a local organization at the city, and now we're looking to monitor them as well. So it's all these relationships that you keep building upon and building upon and building upon, and that grows that machine even bigger and bigger. Our next steps, though, one of the main reasons why I'm here is not so much to wax poetic about all this data that we're going to be generating and all that sort of stuff, and we are going to be generating a sizable amount of data. It's about trying to get involvement from everyone else here. A lot of people are talking about funding and all that sort of stuff, and I'm the kind of guy that I really don't like being, told no. I'll find a way to get around that. So I have the same issues with funding as everyone else does, but we're really good at what we do. And what we do is we have people, and we also have excellent relationships with employers. And we can leverage that. So we might not have a lab because our facility, a Safe Work Manitoba, we're not scoped to have a lab. We're not designed in any sort of way to do that. But an educational facility does have a lab, right? What an educational facility might not have is the people, the connections, and the wherewithal to actually get out there and do the sampling. We can do that. So if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and we'll complete that pie together, right? And we've done that so far. We've partnered with a fairly large group at the University of Manitoba, which has some extensions at UBC as well. We don't have physicians with our group. There's a whole pile of physicians that are looking to work on this. We don't have engineers. We got a whole bunch of engineers that are involved with this. Engineers are looking a way to develop new diesel engines to reduce emissions and efficiencies and all that sort of stuff. I got contacts with the biggest logistic companies in Canada. They'll be more than happy to implement those solutions right there on the spot. So I help them out, and I can also measure and monitor at the same time. Same thing with the physicians. I'll keep on measuring, say, a group of welders from a whole number of different sectors, and maybe they'll be able to take a look at the cancer rates of welders. And we can see that perhaps down the line, there's a correlation between some sort of exposures to certain metals and also to these cancer rates. So it's all about the relationships and about that sort of thing that creates that growth. And really, if you have a widget or if you have anything that you want to attach to a worker, by all means, give me a call, talk to me, send me an email. We love to partner with you guys. We are open for business, and so is the rest of the people that we work with. So that's about it.
Thank you so much, Mike.